Welcome back. On Tuesday, December the 17th, at least 132 students and 9 staff members in Pakistan lost their lives when Taliban gunmen broke into a school in Peshawar and opened fire in the bloodiest massacre the country has seen for years. Anger and grief in Peshawar. At least 132 students and 9 staff members were killed on Tuesday, December the 16th, when Taliban gunmen broke into the school and opened fire. The massacre has horrified Pakistanis and led to a spate of protests and vigils across the country. The attack on the school by Taliban militants has heaped pressure on the government to do more to tackle an increasingly aggressive Taliban insurgency. The authorities, long accused of not being tough enough on extremists, quickly pointed fingers at Afghanistan, suggesting the neighbouring nation is not doing enough to catch Pakistani Taliban commanders hiding on its territory. Meanwhile, world leaders all condemned the assault, which was the deadliest militant attack ever in Pakistan. Footage of terrified children and classrooms awash with blood has provoked a wave of revulsion in a country mostly used to daily violence.
Mothers and fathers send their kids to school to learn and to be safe and to dream and to find opportunity. The images are absolutely gut-wrenching. Young children carried away in ambulances, a teacher burned alive in front of the students, a house of learning turned into a house of unspeakable horror.
What happened several thousand miles away in a school in Pakistan is utterly heartbreaking, a massacre of the innocents which has left the world numb. The world stands head bowed with Pakistan today.
UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon also condemned the attack.
No cause can justify such a brutality. No grievance can excuse such a horror. It is an act of horror and rank cowardice to attack defenseless children while they learn.
The Taliban says the attack was in retaliation for a military offensive carried out by the Pakistani army. They accuse the military of carrying out extrajudicial killings. In an apparent response to public opinion, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif announced he had lifted a moratorium on the death penalty. And on Friday, December the 19th, Pakistan executed 2 prominent militants in a clear response to Tuesday's massacre. The heartbreaking attack in Pakistan makes one remember the abducted Chibok girls here in Nigeria who are yet to be found. As the country continues to search for these girls, I wonder how immune Nigeria is to the type of massacre witnessed in Pakistan. I asked a security expert, Dr. Femi Adegbulu, via telephone to answer this question. When you heard the news of the Pakistan attack, what exactly went through your mind?
Well, it's the fact that terrorist attacks have gone viral. And, in this war, in this time and age, there is so much of interconnectivity. So what happens in one country has this tendency to move around other countries. Besides, the terrorists are actually working for common cause. They network, and their modus operandi are always very, very similar. So they can borrow from one country the tactics and another. So I wasn't really surprised because they always revere the attacking by surprise, attacking their victim by surprise, and that is a major thing they do. So I'm not surprised at all.
Well, you just said that the terrorist organizations do network. So is it possible that such a thing could happen here in Nigeria, especially when you think of the abduction of the Chibok girls? Now, those girls were kidnapped. Is it possible that we could have a massacre like that in a Nigerian school here?
Very well, very well. Here in Nigeria, we are very, very, very susceptible to such attacks. There is so much vulnerability all around. The fact that almost 200 students could be carted away, all female, in Chibok, is a pointer to the fact that And the fact also that the government seems to be clueless, not having any idea as to how those girls could be rescued, is another point that we are very, very susceptible and vulnerable in Nigeria. And if you look at Arabic school in Nigeria, particularly in the north, there are no particular, security that will actually safeguard the lives of the pupils and the staff. So the fact again is that the so-called Boko Haram have been ravaging almost everywhere in the very, very glare of our security operatives. It's also pointed to the fact that an ordinary school girl or school boy in Nigeria is very, very vulnerable to attack.
So what preventive measure can the Nigerian government and the military take to prevent such attack from occurring?
Well, it's to first and foremost check statistics of facilities that are vulnerable, statistics that are vulnerable where the students are operating, for instance, without security. So it will make sure that such areas are guarded, deploy security operatives, do surveillance, gather intelligence to make sure to know whether the people are, vulnerable to attack or whether they are under target or not. So when such things are done, so the government will be able to map out strategies to guard against such attacks. It must be, it's something that intelligence will actually work very perfectly on. But do we have intelligence apparatus to do this? That is the issue. Apart from gathering intelligence, they need to also do some perimeter fencing, guarding, do some level of physical security to make sure that all the schools are fenced, and then we put capable guardians, people who can actually ward off any situation of attack. So these are issues that are at stake. But one is afraid that politics seem to have taken better part of government things in this state.
Meanwhile, a military court in Nigeria has sentenced 54 soldiers to death by firing squad for refusing to fight Boko Haram militants. The court, sitting at a military headquarters in Abuja, found the soldiers guilty of 2 counts of criminal conspiracy to commit mutiny. The court was established in October to try 97 soldiers and senior officers who allegedly refused to recapture territories held by Boko Haram in Borno State. The court's decision is already attracting criticisms from human rights groups.
It is legal in Nigeria to pass a death sentence, but it should be used only for the most serious crimes, including maybe killing large numbers of people. But for a mutiny, I think it is stretching it a bit far, and the authorities should have a rethink.
Still in Nigeria, the 46th session of the Economic Community of West African States was held in Abuja, the nation's capital city, on Monday, December the 15th. 5 West African heads of state and government were in attendance, and the summit covered a number of issues affecting the region, including the deadly Ebola virus outbreak.
The West African leaders, led by the current chairman of Ecowas, John Mahama, and the host president, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, as they converged on Abuja for the 46th session of the meeting of heads of state and government. None of the presidents of the countries being ravaged by Ebola is present, but of significance is the presence of the interim president of Burkina Faso, who will lead the country's effort to return to democratic rule. All the speakers touched on the ravaging effects of Ebola and terrorism, with President Jonathan calling for more donations.
We must also admit that our sub-region continues to face many serious challenges. Prominent among these challenges before us today is the ravaging Ebola epidemic. In the last 6 months, I have witnessed the negative impact of the Ebola virus disease in the region. Since its outbreak in March this year, the disease has resulted in over 7,000 deaths, apart from negatively impacting our economies. I therefore call on member states as well as our development partners and the international community at large to contribute generously to the Ecowas Regional Solidarity Fund to fight the Ebola virus disease.
On his part, the chairman of ECOWAS and the president of Ghana, Mr. John Mahama, said the setback created by Ebola and terror attacks will have serious consequences in Africa if not checked.
Terrorism or lack of security in one West African nation reflects negatively on the whole of our sub-region. So we must work together harder and with smart strategies to keep West Africa safe, secure, and attractive for investments for the overall good of our people.
Goodwill messages came from the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, represented by Mohammed Ibn Chambers. The 46th summit, which is the last before the 40th anniversary of ECOWAS, was used to launch the Common External Tariff (CET) for the region, and copies distributed to the heads of government.
And that's Diplomatic Channel this week. Many thanks for watching. I'm Temitope Fagbemi.